Welcome back. You're watching Hope TV News. Now, tonight on the Dialogue K, we'll be discussing on the state of the national dialogue that is taking place at the Bomas of Kenya. And to help us discuss on this, joined by Steve Ogutu, a governance specialist, and lawyer Charles Kimathi. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Let
Appreciate
me
it.
begin by you, Wakili. I mean, what's your take on the whole process so far on the national dialogue?
Um, I think first it was a good move, considering the political temperatures that were rising,
Sure.
right, left, center, and it may be not in the very goodwill with the politicians, because we say you cannot trust the politician. They always remain, the monkeys are the same, only the forest that do change. But having said that, if the dialogue buys some time for us, we are able to continue with our normal business. Some of the Kenyans were not interested to be given food, but to have an environment that they can work comfortably and they can raise their earning. Because much of the losses we were making, we were counting in form of billions, was a result of non-business going on, because the temperatures were rising more and more. But may it be as it may, if the dialogue is taken serious, I believe it can birth something that can result us to somewhere better. And I pray that the committee members and every party involved will read from what killed BBI.
Steve Wakili says that you cannot trust politicians. I don't know what's your take on this whole process so far on the national dialogue.
I think for me, and first of all, thanks for having me on the issue. I think it's my first time appearing on Hope TV,
Karibu sana.
and I'm so excited about it. I think the whole dialogue issue is something that should be lauded. It should be applauded by any Kenyan anyone who means good for Kenya. We have seen where we were in the past, where property were being destroyed, lives were lost. Over 50 Kenyans lost their lives. And therefore, this party is deciding to sit. I think that is commendable. But I think going beyond that, we need to see this dialogue centering around issues that concern Kenyans, not the politicians themselves. We know that there's high cost of living. That is a crisis in this country. The people who are going hungry for like an entire week without meals, you know. I mean, it's despicable. And I think that there's need to have a genuine agenda about uplifting the livelihoods of the Kenyan people. If this dialogue is not about that, then it speaks to what he's saying about whether these politicians are genuine or not. But I want to hope that the content of this dialogue and its primary agenda is to really address the issues that Kenyans are struggling with. And I think top on that list is the cost of living.
The cost of living. Yeah. We'll get to that on the cost of living, but we've seen Kenyans making their submissions. And today we saw the former Attorney General Amos Wako making his submissions, and he said that he actually proposed that 2 or 3 political parties with the largest influence to be able to nominate IBC commissioners. Do you think this is going to solve the trust issues that many politicians have with the IBC?
In my view, we have football teams that always have 2 teams play. And I believe the current president told them the same proposal was in the BBI that failed. And I believe Amos Wako was among the proposers of the same motion. And there is a statement he made by then that there is no time the teams that are playing can select their referees. I believe it would be, what about when we talk about the constitutional right, even the ones that are considered as less political parties have equal rights. And now, for example, we had two teams that were there in the elections, but assuming that the ODM went separate with the Jubilee, Jubilee would have been the third party that would have almost equal muscle with the ODM, considering the parties, the members they got after the election. Now, if we have selected the two parties, we are making an assumption there will be always two parties that have almost equal muscles. There may be 5 parties that are equal muscles. So there are things we cannot fix in law and say this is the best it will be. We would rather have a neutral person elected generally to handle the elections and let them have their independence. Because if you have also sent, like now, the way we have now this committee, the National Dialogue, would we now have a lot of trust with them because they have been selected by these two committees, by the two parties? It may not be so. The only person who is actually having that faith with them is this politician. But the election should be taken beyond the two politicians who are competing the main seat. The elections is actually for us as citizens, the Mwananchi, the Wanjiko, the Otieno. And that is the person who should be in the consideration when even we are selecting who will manage the elections and who will give us the results that are genuine, honest, verifiable, open. And when that result comes also, somebody also must be open and ready to know that there is no single time when both of you will win. There must be a winner and there must be a loser in every election. And the one who wins must be able to celebrate in a manner, appreciating the other competitor. And the one who loses must be ready to congratulate. And I congratulate both Polycarp and Sakaja. They showed us if in the national elections was like the way Nairobi County was, they pushed each other until the last minute. And they shook hands, and there was nothing beyond there. And today both of them are happy. I wish then the entire nation also can be of the kind. Then we would not even have a problem with the IEBC.
All right, Steve, let me pick your mind on this issue. Do you agree with the proposal by the former Attorney General to have the top 3 parties nominate the commissioners of the IEBC?
You know, I'm a big champion of inclusivity in everything. And I don't think that would really solve the current, the kind of issues that distrust and the trust deficiency that IEBC is suffering right now. And I think this is really expected. I mean, if you look at IEBC, I think this is the only body, independent institution in this country that is handling a very sensitive aspect of this country, the democracy, holding the heart of the democracy of this country, dealing with so many varied interests, you know, and therefore so much at stake, and that's a lot of issues that we see IEBC facing. But I think also within IEBC, I think there's need to really look at within the IEBC institution, leaving alone the personalities. I think it's really important for them to look at why has there been issues around trust within the IEBC. What are they doing right? What are they not doing right? And how can they self-correct some of these issues? Truth is, if we were to follow the law and do what the law says in terms of even Chapter 6 of our constitutions for the IEBC officials, or in terms of the laws and the regulations that govern the elections in this country, then we wouldn't really have a lot of these problems. So could it be that there is lip service when it comes to following some of these laws? Could it be that the kind of technologies that we are adopting could be contributing to this distrust that we have? So I think the bottom line is IBC need to reach to a point where they say, let's pause and reflect. Let's look at what has worked and what hasn't, and engage other stakeholders, not just the politicians. I think the most important stakeholder in all this conversation is us, the citizens of this country, and not the few political leaders we see meeting over meals and coffee, purporting to be representing us. I think we really need to take it a notch higher to really getting the genuine citizen views in a structured way. I think that could help us get a pathway to addressing some of these issues.
All right. Right now, the IBC is not fully constituted. And actually, Banisa constituency does not have an MP because the MP passed and the elections could not be held because of that. I mean, why do you think this is happening yet we have an IBC selection panel that is yet to start its mandate?
We are all aware that the part of the commission, the Cherera 4, when they resigned, is when also the political temperatures were rising. And now the selection of the new commission would not have been the suitable time to have been elected when the temperatures are on that kind of level that it was going to. Well, I would say also the IBC itself faces a very challenging moment. Because if you are a commissioner, okay, at times I try also to appreciate these politicians because some of them, it is a matter of lifetime. So the interest they have is more than what we think or we see. If somebody feels like that seat is either get now or now, which of course should not be the case, whatever aspirations you have in life, you must always plan to win, but when you lose, how to manage the loss. But if we are in the government and we give pressure to the ones we have appointed to handle that election, then it means they will not. You realize that the last three commissions, actually the last three chairpersons, have been under pressure. And all of them have been pushed to resign. And unfortunately, part of the people who are appointed them are the same people who push them out. And you find like, who will we get that we think you, Bwana Kennedy, and my friend, both of you want the same seat, and there's only one who will get it. And you come to me and say, deliver this to me or to me. Under the sun, it will not happen because legally it is not applicable. Naturally, it is not doable. So this, whoever we appoint there as a IBC chairperson cannot have two presidents. The voters will vote, and at the end of the day, we will have one president. But now if we put pressure that confirm this, it will not happen. And that's where the problem is. And as much as we want to, we will push and we keep reviewing, but the best that we can do is always to continue improving, continue working on the strategies and the systems until the time now we are able to see, like the way, because almost every other nation will always be dissatisfied. Even Trump said the elections were rigged from the United States of America, and in fact, he refused even to hand over. And they took over the government without his consent. So if that happens to United States of America, how much will it happen in Africa, where we believe everything we gain by force? So probably after this dialogue and the things have cooled down, the commission will be appointed, and there will be the required quorum that would be constituted, so that they can be able to carry out the elections of the places that are affected. Because I understand the chairman term ended, the other four resigned. So actually there is no commission.
No quorum. But I also think that even as we we even as the country is moving towards establishing the IBC with new commissioners and all that, it is important that they learn from the recommendations that came out from the 2017 ruling and also last year's ruling, so that we don't keep on finding ourselves in such positions. I think those were really fundamental pieces of rulings and recommendations from the Supreme Court that needs to be upheld. But beyond that, I think in this entire dialogue, there are some insights that are coming out. If you listen to Professor Githu Muigai, I think of all the, I'm not trying to play down views from other people, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, I think the issues he raised during his submission of reducing number of constituencies, number of counties and all that, I think his point was the kind of wage bill that this country is experiencing is so top-heavy. And that in itself is hurting this economy, is hurting the very agenda that the government is trying to push of bottom-up economy. Because then very few benefit at the expense of the citizens. We spend so much money out of the revenue we collect going to pay wages and all that, salaries and all that. And then the other portion goes to debt repayment and all that. So very less is left to development the country. And I think those are some of the issues that we should be seeing featuring in this dialogue going forward.
Wakil, you've mentioned about the Cherarafo. And actually, they made their submissions last week, and they dismissed the results of last year's presidential race. Do you think that they are opening up wounds that maybe Kenyans heal from or are healing from, and after the Supreme Court made its declaration?
Cherarafo was a very interesting drama, in my opinion, and there are many questions as he has mentioned that were raised by the Supreme Court, because they had an opportunity to make a presentation in the Supreme Court. And there was an opportunity to analyze the evidence that they had. And the part of it was that one of the questions they had was, why quiet until the last minute? Then he said the results are not genuine. Number two, we expected them as commissioners to have brought before the court a clear evidence on it, because I was following the elections in different aspects. There were ones that the IMBC were doing, the tally. There was one that was being done by the citizen, the tally. There was one that was being done by Kenya Kwanza. Unfortunately, the other side, Azimio Trust and the IMBC wouldn't do it for them, because we anticipated that though it is the work of the commission to tally and do everything, you also, as an agent, have a mandate to verify the vote from there. And you understand that the ruling in Raila 1, you usually call them Raila 1, Raila 2, Raila 3, because the Supreme Court ruling in 2013 was the first presidential petition, and the person who filed it was Raila 1. The petition in 2017, we call it Raila 2. There was another 2017 that we filed after the second, the repeat of the election, Raila 3, and Raila 4, that was now in 2022. Now, in all of them, there have been recommendations by the court out of the analysis that the advocates and everybody has given during the hearing, the parties and the councils. And also, one of the things now that was recommended in that 2013 was that the vote cast, and I think there was also some interpretations from the High Court concerning how the voting would be carried, so that there can be verification. So one of the recommendations was the vote cast at the polling station is the final vote. So the only business in the national tally is actually like summarizing the record. And that's why every station, that polling station, that very primary school, where there are 3 polling stations there, ought to have agents from every party. And those agents are entitled to retain a copy when the other copy is retained by the IEBC. Such that if there are 3 parties or 5 parties, each of them get a copy of the vote that have been casted there, the box has been opened there, then they have tallied, they have counted, and that number is transmitted to the constituency level. They tally all of them. There is an agent from every party. They have that right to have that agent. Then they tally there. Then it's taken to the county level. They tally there. Then it's now brought to the national level. Now, in the constituency level, they would form the first form. Then they have the form C in county level. And then the last form is formed in the national tally. And that's where you would hear when we were talking about the production of Form B, Form C, Form D being the last form. It was now the final tally. So what Serera differed on was now the final tally that was being brought from the constituencies. They never told us the one that was done about the polling stations. Because now in the national level, they were receiving for polling stations, constituencies, and there was a record of all of them. Now, there was what was transmitted electronically and physically. And one of the questions that was very clear in the Supreme Court was to them, was there any doctoring of the physical document when they traveled from Moyale to Nairobi? Was there any differing from that one that traveled from Malindi to Nairobi? From that little polling station in Kilalai Primary Maua, Egembe constituency, Meru County, that was brought to Nairobi Bomas Tallying Center? If there is no single proof of one single station that was different, then what are you telling us that there was doctoring of the result? So the main question, and that was demonstrated even in the court, was, are they tallying here in the physical document and what was electronically transmitted on what was transmitted from the polling station, from the constituency level, from the county level? Now, are they opening wounds? Yes, they are. But they are just seeking mercy so that they are covered. They are not seen like they just cause drama to the elections. They are trying to redeem themselves. Because to me, I believe they were the greatest failures. They should have told us something is not working from day one. They should have told us 5 constituencies results have been brought here and they are not tallying. They should have pointed to us. Because if you just tell the nation, I don't agree with the result, what are you not agreeing with? Tell us, I'm not agreeing with the result from Kiambu Primary. They have been doctored.
Talking of agreeing, Steve, do you agree with Wakili's remarks regarding the Cherera form, that they are the biggest failures of the election?
I think, like he correctly put it, that was his opinion.
Yeah.
And he's entitled to his opinion.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But I think by virtue of them, I don't think that it's really wise to entirely dismiss them. I think that would be because this was the vice chairperson of IEBC, and these were the 4 of them were formed the 50+1, of IEBC, and so is there something they know that we didn't know, But I think right now whatever they're suggesting could be water under the bridge. But I think they're important lessons that they should share with IBC. For instance, how can we make IBC serve Kenyans better, discharge its mandate better? How can IBC, build confidence of Kenyans in it, as opposed to what we are seeing right now? I think that is a challenge, and I think even just by virtue of having agents in every polling station, I'm looking forward to a time when we won't need to have agents, because the mandate of IBC is very express, to count-elect, to conduct the elections, end to end, voting and tallying and announcing results. I'm looking forward to a day when we won't need to have to verify, to counter-verify from agents, and that will only happen when they do a lot of work in building the confidence and addressing the trust issues that some majority of Kenyans, or most Kenyans, have in them.
The main reason as to why Azimio went to the streets was because of the high cost of living, as they put it. But looking at this national dialogue, we're seeing more of electoral reforms discussions, more than the high cost of living. Do you think that there's a diversion, in a way, from the main agenda?
I would think that they shouldn't, like I said, this whole dialogue, if it's to be a genuine dialogue, it has to be centered around the issues that Kenyans are facing, first and foremost. How can we lower the cost of living? How can we lower the cost of fuel? How can we make things better for common mwananchi? But beyond that, we cannot also just play down the kind of issues they're raising around elections, governance, and all that. I think if you've listened to both sides, I think they agree that maybe there are reforms that need to happen, because here we are not just talking about we are talking about the stability of a country, and we have seen that when a country is not stable, when the democracy of a country is threatened, the whole country is threatened, whether it's the economy of a country, whether it's the end-to-end, the entire country is threatened, and we don't want to get there. I think if there are structures that they are proposing to have in place to help us address some of these issues going forward, I think those should be encouraged.
All right. Is there a possibility of both teams disagreeing on the issues as they conclude?
We never know.
Because we saw the bipartisan talks failed. We now have the National Dialogue Committee.
One, as he mentions, we cannot ignore the issue they raise on the political, because when also we touch on the issue of the elections, it all rise or fall with the leadership. And if we don't have a proper system in the electoral body, and one that is independent and reliable, most of the time we are likely to be shortchanged. And when you get wrong with the leadership, then also we will not manage everything else that rises with the country. Because the governance is all our security depends and looks at how the leadership is. When you come even to the food security and all that development, it all looks at who will manage this.
Okay, so do you think that...
So the dialogue, yes, it may end up with them if they agree on the leadership, everything else they will put it under the table. With them, if they have they differ in the issues of the leadership among themselves, then the dialogue will fail. But I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, they are very little about the common mwananchi.
So in your opinion, do you think the dialogue will succeed or not?
The dialogue, I will give it still, I'm yet to see, and give it 50-50.
50-50.
Until the question should be, succeed from whose perspective? Is it from the mwananchi perspective or from the politician's perspective?
Yeah.
I think from the mwananchi perspective, and here also we have to look at, are the issues being discussed there mwananchi related issues? If that's the case, then yes, I think I endorse it. If the issues that are being discussed there are about mwananchi, I endorse it. But again, if it's about politics, then I think they seem to be a blessing of the Kenya Kwanza leader, the president in this, and also the blessing from Raila Odinga and co in this matter. So if they have blessings from both sides, I think it will sail through. I think that's the reality. The
All
reality.
right. So
Yeah.
50-50 and a yes. All right. That's a very good point to end the dialogue tonight. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Wakili.
Most obliged.
All right. And thank you so much, our viewers, for watching the Dialogue K. On behalf of the whole team that made this broadcast a success, have yourself a blessed night. My name is Kennedy Kimani, and my co-presenter on the sign language interpretation has been Boniface Murithi.